When discussing foundational data, we're referring to the business unit, site, and cost center objects. Let's begin with the first one. Business units enable the creation of structures, facilitating the existence of parent and child units associated with each other. SAP provides the tenant with a root business unit, representing the company itself. While this object can be edited and renamed, it cannot be assigned as a child unit, remaining at the top of the hierarchy. To create a new business unit, click on the New button located at the top right corner. In SAP Fieldglass, when a field is marked with a red asterisk in front of its name, it indicates that the field is mandatory. This applies to all fields across all objects and configurations within the system. In the Code field, a unique code consisting of up to 100 characters is defined for the object. This code can be modified later when editing the object, with the change automatically reflected across all associated objects. The Name field is where the name of the object is defined, aiding in its identification. The Parent Business Unit field is used to designate the object that holds a higher position in the hierarchy of the structure. The General Ledger field allows for the assignment of a general ledger account if applicable. Legal entities are used to establish connections between different data elements like business units, sites, cost centers, users, task codes, and expense codes. These relationships allow the grouping of information, creating valid combinations during data entry processes. This object will be explained in detail in another class. Here, we determine the association of a business unit with a legal entity, case the company configuration Enable Legal Entity is active. Otherwise, this configuration will not be available. The option None means no association with any legal entity. The option Single associates the business unit with a single legal entity. The option Multiple permits the business unit to link with one or more legal entities. The option All automatically associates the business unit with all existing legal entities. This includes any new legal entities created subsequently, which will also be linked automatically. Escalation thresholds are used to specify conditions when time thresholds are not met, resulting in notifications sent to the primary supervisor of a user. This enables the creation of distinct thresholds for each department. A coordinator is usually someone tasked with overseeing different aspects of the procurement process linked to a job posting. You can designate a specific person to coordinate all job postings for a particular department. Choosing Yes will prompt you to select the preferred user. Every job posting needs to be distributed to suppliers. Here, it is possible to designate someone to be responsible for distributing all postings created under this department. Alternatively, the distributor must be defined in the job posting template. The remit to address is where invoices should be sent for payment processing. It serves as the designated billing address for the organization or entity utilizing the SAP Fieldglass system. You can specify a unique address for each business unit if needed. After creating the business units, they will be listed and accessible in this section. Through the View Type option, it is possible to change the viewing mode from List to Tree, allowing you to check the structure of the created business units. In both modes, List View and Tree View, you can click on the business unit name to access its details. In the business unit details, you can view the configurations in the middle. In the top right menu, there are options to edit, deactivate, remove the object, or even create a new one. The difference between deactivating and removing a business unit is that the deactivation keeps the object created with all its associations, but not available for use in new documents. Removing, on the other hand, requires all associations to be removed and ongoing sub-use or job postings to be revised to a new business unit. In the left sidebar menu, you'll find all the items associated with this business unit, such as users, workers, job posting templates, and legal entities. This is where we associate legal entities with business units created with the multiple option in the legal entities association field. Cost centers are logical divisions within an organization, but unlike business units, they are used solely to monitor and control expenses related to the hiring of services and workers. They are associated with service requisitions and work orders to ensure accurate cost allocation. Additionally, they can be used in integrations with external systems to ensure accurate accounting and facilitate financial performance analysis. Accessing the Cost Center menu, you'll find a list of cost centers that have been utilized at least once. By using the View filter, you can toggle between used and unused cost centers. To access the details of a cost center, simply click on its name. From there, you can manage the object association and edit its configuration as needed. The field code must be unique and cannot be shared among multiple cost centers. If a cost center is closed, then its code may be reused. The field name represents the name of the cost center. Optionally, the cost center code and name can be identical. It's possible to use the same name for multiple cost centers. For organizations requiring more detailed data than standard fields allow, custom fields of segmented object details (SOD) type can be created. These are available when the Enable Segmented Object Detail Company configuration is enabled for contingent, services, or both. SODs allow for the stringing together of multiple segments of data as attributes of a cost center, providing a more granular breakdown of cost center charges. SODs are associated with cost centers and pass to work orders, workers, and SOW line items where applicable. The description field is used to provide a brief explanation of the purpose of the cost center. The environment field serves as a secondary description of the cost center. Certain buyers utilize this field to assimilate the branch code from SAP. When a cost center is designated as a rebillable, the cost allocation section is hidden from suppliers on associated job postings and SOW bids. If multiple cost centers are listed in a job posting or SOW, and one is marked as rebillable, all others are also suppressed. A project cost center is assigned to a start and end date and can only be allocated to a worker when their dates overlap with those of the cost center for at least one day. It is used for temporary cost centers. For project cost centers, the number of hours that are expected to be billed to this cost center can be included. This field does not affect any calculations, being used for reporting purposes. For project cost centers, the Open to Associate flag determines whether workers can directly associate this cost center from their available cost centers list, or if they must request the cost center owner to make the association on their behalf. Multiple currencies can be added to a cost center. If more than one currency is selected, multiple cost centers with the same code and name appear on the cost center list page, with each displaying its currency. While additional currencies can be added after creation, existing ones cannot be removed. The cost center owner, responsible for maintaining cost center information, is automatically associated with a new cost center upon creation. This association remains unless the user is changed. The cost center owner designation can be utilized for approval routings and reporting. Legal entity association defines how a cost center associates with legal entities. Here we determine the association type, case the company configuration Enable Legal Entity is active. Otherwise, this configuration will not be available. Task codes enable workers to allocate their time to specific tasks or projects on their time sheets. This option determines whether workers associated with this cost center will have access to all task codes. Expense codes track expenses incurred by workers, such as travel or equipment costs, typically aligned with related expense types. The original code field stores the code used by the ERP instance for the cost center. The account category serves to categorize the cost center, but it's only visible if an account category pick list has been created. When utilized, the application assigns a unique line item number to each cost center on a contingent work order, grouping those with the same account category together. These line item numbers are then displayed in the accounting section of the work order details page, alongside the list of associated cost centers. This arrangement allows for multiple cost centers to be included on a single invoice. Once an account category is assigned to a cost center, it cannot be changed. A site defines the regions or geographic areas where an organization operates or has offices, while a location provides more specific details about a site, such as a street address or floor number. The scope of a site can vary depending on the organization's needs, ranging from broad geographic areas like cities to more specific regions. By associating a job posting with a site, the system can automatically adjust to local conditions, including calendars, radius, suppliers, and tax structures. It's advisable to configure sites at the highest level to effectively manage user visibility, supplier distribution, and rate card entries. For more detailed information, such as physical addresses or cubicle numbers, locations can be created and linked to sites, providing more specific details without needing to configure rates and supplier associations for multiple similar sites. While the use of locations is optional, they offer flexibility in capturing detailed site information. When a site is created, SAP Fieldglass automatically generates a default location with the same code and name as the site. However, if additional locations are added to a site, users must select a location after choosing a site on a document, such as a job posting. Each site can have multiple associated locations, but each location can only be linked to one site. In the Sites section, we encounter the structure that has been established. The site details are accessible by clicking on the site code. Like the business unit, this object can be viewed as a tree list. Additionally, new sites can be created from the top right menu. The field code must be unique and cannot be shared among multiple sites. The field name represents the name of the site. Optionally, the site code and name can be identical. Choose the currencies to be available for this site. If multiple currencies are chosen, each combination of site and currency will be listed in the Site List view. Once the site is saved, the original currencies cannot be removed. However, you can add or remove additional currencies as required. If the selectable site option Yes is chosen, the site becomes selectable in job postings or SOWs. If No is chosen, the site will not appear in a site list for transactional purposes. Instead, it serves solely as an association to support hierarchy logic. This option is useful if the company wishes to group sites under a specific label without making that label available to directly link to workers. The parent site is used to establish the site's hierarchical structure and apply site configurations. Any site can serve as a parent of a site and be a child of another site. There is no limit to the number of levels in the site hierarchy, and it depends on the company's needs. The sites listed here are only the sites with the status open and do not include the current site being created. Corporate calendars denote the regular non-working days of a company, including weekends, as well as specific non-working days like holidays. Once company calendars are established and linked to their corresponding sites, non-working days will be reflected on workers' timesheets. The Legal Entity Association field determines the type of relationship between the sites and legal entities. The Hours per Day field specifies the standard working hours for a typical day at the site. The value entered here will be automatically applied to job postings created for this site. If left blank, the default hours per day set in the company configuration will be applied to job postings for this site. The Hours per Week field specifies the standard working hours for a typical week at the site. The value entered here will be automatically applied to job postings created for this site. If left blank, the default hours per week set in the company configuration will be applied to job postings for this site. The address fields allow the input of the site's address information. The market type field only displays if the rate guidance company configuration is enabled. This classification is used to manually rank sites into groups with similar cost of living indexes. The Invoice Tax Information option defines if this information is mandatory on invoices. In case the option Yes is selected, the tax code must be selected. The field allow candidate anonymity for contingent, withheld the job seekers when a job posting is associated to this site. When this flag is enabled for a site, name withheld is displayed instead of the job seeker's name. The System ID field is used to store the ID of the ERP instance to which the site is tied. This field is not displayed if a System ID pick list has not been created. The original code can be used to store the site code from a root database. Multiple objects can be linked to a site using the section on the left side of the Site Details page. In the top right menu, you can create a new site, close the selected site, edit the site details, and adjust the site configuration. Some company configurations are set at the site level rather than the company level. While configuring the company details, the site configurations are established. However, they can be modified and defined at the site level, reflecting different behaviors according to the selected site. When the Lock Values checkbox is selected, the configuration value is enforced for any child sites. This configuration can be unlocked at the site level only if it is enabled and unlocked at the parent site. If the configuration is locked at the parent site or the company level, it cannot be unlocked at the site level. A site configuration can be enabled for all labor types or only for specified ones. Clicking on the labor type number opens a pop-up where you can make this selection. Enable Bulk e-signature permits suppliers to electronically sign contracts in bulk. Once activated, the option Pending Work Order Contracts becomes accessible in the View menu. Users can utilize this list to navigate to and collectively sign contracts. The options selected in these sections determine the type of timesheet that is used for contingent and service workers. If the Time in Time Out option is enabled, contingent workers will enter the time they started and ended each day. Meal break times are also captured on the TITO timesheet. The total hours worked each day are automatically calculated based on the start and end times. The total hours worked must match the hours allocated against the cost centers, task codes, and rate categories for each day, unless the Suppress Validation on TITO Company Configuration option is enabled. The TITO timesheet supports the option to track 1 meal break or 3 meal breaks. A meal break option must be selected if TITO timesheets are enabled. If the standard option is enabled, workers will enter the total number of hours worked or units completed in a day on their timesheets. Workers will not enter the time they started or the time they ended their day. Standard timesheets support hourly, daily, and monthly rates. The option No Timesheets will not create them, but contingent workers may still be able to create expense sheets. If this option is enabled but not locked, this rule can be modified on the job posting template, job posting, and work order. The options suppress worker. Personal details will gray out the personal information section on the Details tab of the worker record. This section contains worker details such as username, email, phone number, and address. In addition to not being visible to buyer users, through the user interface, the personal information is not reportable. The Allow Profile Picture option permits the supplier to include a picture of the job seeker when submitting them to a job posting. Tax guidance functionality helps suppliers determine the taxes for a transaction based on multiple factors including the location of the service, type of work being performed, and the buyer's legal entity. The tax management option dictates the supplier's interaction with invoice taxes. If Edits Allowed is selected, supplier users with financial permissions may edit invoice taxes. If No Edits Allowed is selected, supplier users cannot edit invoice adjustments. If No Edits Allowed with Tax Change Request is selected, no edits are allowed to invoice adjustments. However, supplier users can request to the buyer a tax change. Enabling Tax Effective on Invoice Submit will factor in the invoice submit date for determining applicable confirmed work order adjustments on the invoice record. Otherwise, the submit date of the item included in the invoice will be considered. This option allows the generation of worker management record documents for workers who are associated with this site. After enabling this configuration, a template for worker management record documents must be uploaded in the XSL Templates section. If this option is enabled, background checks are enabled. Select the company that the customer will be using to perform background checks. The background check integration enables companies to integrate background checks into their hiring process workflow. This involves exchanging information between the SAP Fieldglass application and a designated background check provider. It's important to note that the background check integration can only be linked to a single designated background check provider. This option allows the background check request to be accessible on the job seeker page before the work order is sent to the supplier. If this option is enabled, buyers can choose to select job seekers for hire even if they do not pass the background check.